I was bleeding on my kitchen floor in January 2023. No power, no phone, no ambulance. And the thing that kept me alive? Not my tactical first aid kit. It was something my Amish neighbor taught me 12 years ago, and I ignored until it was too late. Yeah, for 11 days my gas froze, roads were buried, and I was stuck in a house that only stayed warm because of a cast iron cook stove I'd been using since 2021. But what most people don't realize is this: when the grid goes down, your biggest threat isn't hunger, it's infection. One cut, one fall, one accident, and if you don't know how to handle it, it can spiral fast. Now, you've probably seen those wild videos, Amish bullet wound hack. But let's be real, the Amish aren't Hollywood stuntmen. They don't treat gunshot wounds with apple cider vinegar and faith alone. What they do have is something far more valuable: 200 years of living without a plan B and surviving anyway. Number 1, stop the bleeding. You cut your hand, blood starts running, fast, no ambulance coming, no clinic open. What do? Most people panic. They grab a paper towel, a kitchen rag, something dirty. That's how it goes wrong. The Amish don't panic. They move fast but calm. First thing they reach for? A clean cotton sheet. Not gauze, not a fancy bandage, a sheet. One they've washed, boiled, and dried. Why? Because clean matters more than cost. They fold it thick, 3 or 4 layers at least, then press hard right on the wound. No gloves, no tools, just firm, steady pressure. And they don't peek. That's the big mistake most make. You lift too soon, the clot breaks and bleeding starts all over. 10 full minutes. That's how long they hold. No clock watching, no "is it done yet?" Just pressure. I learned this the hard way in 2023. I was splitting wood, slipped, and sliced my forearm. Blood everywhere. My first aid kit had those expensive trauma pads. I grabbed one, pressed, lifted after 5 minutes to check. Bad move. The blood started flowing again. I lost more in that second round than the first. Later, my Amish neighbor came by. He didn't say much, just handed me a folded cloth from his bag. "Hold it," he said. 10 minutes. Don't look." I did, and it worked. They don't use magic. They use habit. Clean cloth, firm pressure, time. That's it. You don't need a $200 med kit. You need something clean, something thick, and the will to wait. Most homes have old cotton sheets, t-shirts, towels. Boil them, keep them ready, store them dry. When the power's out and help is hours away, that simple cloth could be the only thing between life and loss. 2. Clean the wound. You've stopped the bleeding. Good. Now it's time to clean the wound before dirt turns into infection. And no, you don't pour whiskey on it. That's something from old westerns, not real life. It burns like fire and doesn't actually clean deep. The Amish use something far simpler: salt and water. Just plain table salt, 1 teaspoon, and 1 quart of clean water. They boil it first, not to sterilize the salt, but to kill anything living in the water or on the container. After it cools to body temperature, they gently pour it over the wound. This mix is called saline. Hospitals use it every day. It rinses out grit, dust, and bacteria without damaging new tissue. And you've got both ingredients right now in your pantry and your tap. I tried the whiskey trick once years ago. Thought I was being tough. All it did was make my friends scream and delay proper cleaning. When I asked an Amish midwife about it, she just shook her head. Whiskey is for warming hands, not healing cuts. They never rush this step. Even if it's cold outside or you're tired, they take the time. They use a clean cup or ladle to pour the solution slowly. No scrubbing, no harsh rubbing, just steady rinsing until the wound looks clear. If you don't have salt, clean boiled water alone is better than nothing. But salt makes a real difference. It pulls out hidden debris and creates a hostile space for germs. Store a small jar of salt in your emergency kit. Label it. Keep it dry. When the world goes quiet and your only light comes from a lantern, that teaspoon could be the thing that keeps a small cut from turning deadly. Number 3, cover it, not with gauze, but with lard and linen. Now that the wound is clean, it's time to cover it. Most people reach for gauze pads or store-bought bandages, but when supplies run out, the Amish use something older and simpler, lard and linen. They take a small amount of clean, rendered pork fat, lard, and smear it gently on a piece of boiled cloth. Then they lay it right over the wound. No tape, no plastic, just soft fabric held in place with a wrap or tied in place. Why lard? Because it seals. It keeps dirt and air out, but lets the skin breathe. It doesn't stick like modern dressings do. And when you go to change it, you won't rip off new tissue by accident. That matters, especially if you can't afford to make it worse. I didn't believe this until 2023. I had a deep cut on my hand from splitting wood. My gauze ran out on day 3. I was stuck. Then my neighbor brought over a little tin. "Use this," he said. I looked inside. White, smooth, fat. Smelled like home cooking, not medicine, but I tried it. It worked better than I expected. The wound stayed moist, not dried out. No sticking, no pain when I changed it, and healing moved faster. Lard also has natural antibacterial properties. It's not a replacement for antibiotics, but it helps slow infection while your body fights. Plus, it's easy to store. Keep it in a sealed jar away from light, and it lasts for months. No fridge needed. The linen part matters too. Cotton breathes. It soaks up excess fluid. And if you boil it first, it stays clean longer. Old shirts, sheets, towels, anything soft and washable can become emergency dressings. This isn't about going back to the 1800s. It's about knowing what works when nothing else is left, and sometimes the oldest way is still the best. Number 4, watch for infection like a hawk, not a hiker. Infection doesn't announce itself with a scream. It creeps in quiet. You think the wound is healing, scabbing over, less red, maybe even a little itchy, but that's when it's most dangerous. The Amish don't wait for fever or swelling. They check every 2 hours. Not once a day, not when they feel like it, every 2 hours. They look for 4 signs: heat, redness, swelling, and pus. Not just on the surface, under the skin. If the area around the cut feels warmer than the rest of the arm or leg, that's a warning. If the redness spreads like ink in water, that's a problem. They don't ignore it. They don't pray harder and hope it goes away. They act. They clean it again, boil more water, add salt, reapply lard and clean linen, and they keep the person still. No walking, no lifting, no rushing. I learned this the hard way. After my cut healed on the surface, I thought I was fine. I went back to chopping wood. 2 days later, the skin around the wound turned hot, swollen. I could feel it throbbing. That's when I knew something was wrong. I didn't have antibiotics. I didn't have a doctor, so I did what the Amish taught me. I stopped everything. I boiled water. I cleaned it again. I kept it covered. I stayed in bed. It took 5 days, but it healed. Infection kills faster than blood loss when help is far away. And it doesn't care if you're tough. It doesn't care if you've survived winters or stockpiled beans. It only cares if you're careless. The Amish don't rush healing. They respect it. They watch. They listen to the body. They know a wound isn't better just because it looks closed. True healing happens underneath. So check it again and again, even if you're tired. Even if it's 3 a.m., even if you're scared. A few minutes of watching could mean the difference between living through this and not. Don't wait for pain. Don't wait for fever. Watch for heat. Watch for red. Watch for swelling. That's your early warning system. And if you're paying attention, you'll catch it before it catches you. Number 5, keep them warm, not just with blankets, but with quiet. When someone is hurt, your first thought is to fix the wound. But the real threat isn't always the cut. It's the silence that follows, the stillness, The cold. The Amish know shock doesn't shout. It whispers. It steals warmth. It slows breathing. It makes hands turn blue. And if you don't stop it, it kills faster than infection. So they don't rush. They don't crowd. They don't ask questions. They wrap the person in wool, real wool, thick and heavy, not polyester or thin synthetic blankets that trap nothing. They cover the head, the feet, the chest, every bit of exposed skin. But here's what most people miss. They also silence the room. No yelling, no radio, no music, no frantic voices, just quiet. I saw this in 2023. A neighbor fell from his ladder. His leg bent wrong. He was pale, shaken. His breath came fast. I grabbed every blanket I had. I put them on him. But I was talking. "Are you okay? Should we move you?" And he just stared at me, eyes wide, not answering. Then the Amish woman who lived down the road came in. She didn't say a word. She just sat beside him, held his hand, pulled the blanket tighter, and then nothing. No noise, just stillness. After 10 minutes, his breathing slowed, his hands warmed, he closed his eyes. That's the secret. Warmth isn't just about blankets, it's about peace. Your voice, your panic, your questions, they all raise his heart rate. And a racing heart uses more energy he doesn't have. They give warm broth, just salted water with a little fat from the pot. Sip slowly, not gulped, not forced. They never move the injured unless they have to, ever. You don't need fancy gear to fight shock. You need wool. You need silence. You need to sit still and be present. When the world falls apart, noise is the enemy. Calm is the medicine. And sometimes the best thing you can do is say nothing at all. Number 6, use what grows if you've been paying attention. The Amish don't wait for a crisis to learn what grows in the woods. They pay attention all year. When spring comes, they gather plantain leaves, not the sweet kind you eat, but the wide-ribbed weeds that grow in your yard, along the fence, near the driveway. They dry them in the sun, store them in jars, not because they're trendy, because crushed between the fingers, those leaves pull out dirt. They stop oozing. They calm redness. Chamomile? They grow it by the back porch. When a cut gets angry, they brew weak tea, just a handful of dried flowers in hot water. Let it cool, then pour it gently over the wound. It's mild, it doesn't sting, and it fights germs without killing new skin. Willow bark? They peel it in early spring, dry it, and boil it for pain. Not like aspirin, but slow, gentle, enough to let someone rest. They don't go out in the middle of winter looking for herbs. That's suicide. They gather when the sun is up and the ground is soft. They dry what they can, label what they know. I thought this was old-school nonsense until I got a deep scrape from a rusty nail. My lard and salt helped, but the swelling wouldn't go. I remembered seeing plantain near the woodpile. I pulled 3 leaves, crushed them between my palms, and pressed them on the cut. Within hours, the heat faded. By morning, the red had shrunk. It didn't cure me, but it helped. And that's the point. You don't need a pharmacy. You need eyes. You need memory. You need to notice what's growing where you live. Start now, not when the power's out. Walk your property this week. Find the plantain, the chamomile, the yarrow. Learn their names. Pick a few leaves. Dry them on a windowsill. Put them in a jar with a label for cuts. Keep it with your salt, your lard, your linen. These aren't magic. They're backups, insurance. And when the world goes quiet, the plants you noticed last summer might be the only thing that keeps you from bleeding out or birding up with fever. You don't have to be a herbalist, just someone who looked up once in a while. Number 7. Know when to say we need help and how to get it. The Amish don't think they're heroes. They don't try to fix everything themselves. They know their limits, and that's what makes them survive. When a wound is deep, when bone shows, when blood won't stop, when the person starts drifting, they don't wait. They don't pray harder. They send someone. A boy on a horse, a neighbor with a wagon, a quiet knock on the door at dawn. They don't wait for the person to get worse. They don't hope it gets better. They act before it's too late. I learned this the hard way. After my cut started healing, I thought I was fine. But then my neighbor's son fell from the barn loft. His leg was bent wrong. He wasn't screaming. He was quiet. Too quiet. His face was gray. His pulse was weak. I wanted to carry him. I thought I could walk him to the road. But the Amish man who came over just shook his head. He said, "You'll kill him. Carry him and you break more. Walk him and he dies on the way." So he sent his grandson, 12 years old, on the oldest horse we had. The boy rode 5 miles in the dark with a note tied to his coat. "Need help. Leg broken. Boy cold. Come now." 3 hours later, a wagon arrived. A real doctor was inside. That's the system. Not isolation, not lone survival. They have networks. They know who can drive, who has a horse, who will drop everything. They don't wait for a phone signal. They use faces, names, trust. You need that too. Who in your town can ride a bike 20 miles? Who has a truck with good tires? Who will leave their family to help yours? Talk to them now, not when the snow's falling, not when the phones are dead. Say this, "If I'm hurt and can't move, I need you to ride or drive to the nearest town. Here's what to say, here's where I live." Write it down. Give them a copy. Keep one for yourself. Because when the world collapses, it's not the guy with the most gear who survives. It's the one who knows who to call and who will answer. None of this is magic. None of it requires a bug-out bag full of plastic gadgets that break in 6 months. It's clean water, salt, linen, lard, attention, and community. You've been prepping for 15 years, Davis. You've stood in front of that cast iron stove in sub-zero cold and kept your family alive. That's not luck. That's legacy. And that's exactly what the Amish have been protecting for generations. So forget the Amish bullet wound myths. Real survival isn't about hacks. It's about habits. Store salt. Boil your cloth. Learn to render fat. Know your plants. And most of all, know your neighbors. Because when the world goes quiet, the quiet people are the ones who keep you alive. If this felt real, if it made you rethink what's in your pantry, drop a comment right now, "I'm boiling water tonight." Smash that like button. It tells YouTube you want more honest prepping, not fantasy. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, because next week I'm showing you how the Amish make soap from wood ash and grease, and why that same soap cleaned wounds for 3 families during the 2023 freeze. Stay ready, stay humble, and never stop learning from the people who never had a choice.